Hi guys, it's Mohammed from Cisco Freight here. Today I want to talk about volumetric weight. Now freight forwarders will either charge you for the actual weight of your shipment or they will charge you for the size of your shipment. Now how do they determine whether your shipment should be charged by size or by weight? What they do is they multiply the length by the width by the height of your box and they divide it by 6,000 and that gives them the volumetric weight of your box. Why do they use the figure 6,000? That's just something that the airlines have chosen to use. So that's the calculation. They multiply length, height, width divided by 6,000 and it gives you the volumetric weight. I'm going to give you an example. So the length of this box by height, length, width and height of this box is 45 times 45 times 30. You divide this by 6,000 units and this gives you a volumetric weight of 10 kilos. Now, if you were to send this abroad with 1 or 2 kilos inside, then you'll be charged for 10 kilos because that's the volume of this box. So in order to avoid being charged by volume, you want to aim for filling this box up with anything more than 10 kilos in actual weight. So whatever you're going to put inside this box has to exceed 10 kilos in order for you to take advantage of the volume of this box and pay for the actual weight. Now, if you fill it up with light goods, so let's just say that you had pillows and you filled up this box right to the top with pillows or beddings and you couldn't fill it up anymore and you weighed the box and it only came up to say 5 or 6 kilos, then unfortunately you'll be paying by the volume because the volume of this box is 10 kilos. Things like that are unavoidable, but if you can avoid it by putting heavyweight goods in there, anything more than 10 kilos, then you'll pay for the actual weight. I do get emailed a lot, I get asked a lot about what's the most suitable box to use to avoid being charged by volume. But the reality is there isn't a certain box to use in order to avoid paying by volume. The reason for this is because every freight forwarder, an airline, will always take into consideration the volume compared to the weight, and then they will compare and see what's greater. If the weight of your shipment is greater than the volume, then you pay by weight. But if the volume is greater than the actual weight, then you pay by volume. So the magic word here really is comparison. What's your weight compared to the size of your box? And that's how they determine whether you pay for volume or weight. You could bring the smallest box. You could have a box half this size. That box will still have a volume. The volume of that box will be, if it's half this, then the volume of that box will be 5 kilos. But if you only put 1 kilo in there, then you'll be charged for 5. So you'll end up paying by volume. So it's not really the size of the box. It's more about what's inside the box in comparison to the size of the box. I want to show you another example on a suitcase. I've got a suitcase here. So if we wanted to find out the volumetric weight of this suitcase, we take the measurements and multiply them by each other. So we've got 50 centimeters by 80 centimeters by 30. So we'll find out what the volumetric weight of this suitcase is. So we've got 80 centimeters by 50 by 30 divided by 6,000. The volumetric weight of this suitcase is 20 kilos. So what you want to be doing here is you want to make sure that you aim to fill the suitcase up with anything more than 20 kilos, no less than 20. If you put less than 20 kilos in this box, then you'll be charged by volume, not weight. So the same principle applies to whether you send in a suitcase, a box, a bag, a container, whatever you're sending. Same principle. You take the measurements, you find out what the volume is, then you fill it up with cargo that exceeds the volumetric weight. Okay, so I know it can get difficult and you don't want to be shopping around for boxes with a tape measure and a calculator, finding out what the volume is. So I'll give you a simple formula to use. If you try and, let's just say that you want to use a large box. So I've got an example here to show you. I've got a large box here. Let's just say that you decide to use a large box, even though I would usually recommend a medium-sized box. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you like this box, you want to use it, you think it's suitable for your cargo. The volumetric of this box, 45 by 45 by 50, divided by 6,000. So the volume of this box is 17 kilos. Okay, now if you buy a box like this, which is about 45 centimeters squared or 50 centimeters squared, thereabouts, the volumetric weight will be around 17 kilos. So what you want to do, you want to aim to fill it up with somewhere around in the range of 20 to 25 kilos. So that will be a good principle to use, a good formula to use. That's what I would do personally. If I was to go for a large box, even though I'd recommend a medium box, but if you were to go for a large box like this, which is about 50 centimeters by 50 by 50, then try and fill it up with about 20 to 25 kilos, and that way you'd have avoided the problem of paying by volume. So I'd use that formula. I think it will be useful for you. Now, there are certain items on which you'll always be charged by volume for. These things are like kids' toys, TVs, beddings like pillows, things like that. These items are light and they take up a lot of space. So you can't avoid things like that. You'll end up paying for the volume of that shipment rather than the actual weight. For example, a TV generally on average with its packaging is about 120 centimeters wide by 75 centimeters high by about 15 or 20 centimeters wide. Now with a TV, you can't make it any smaller. Obviously you can't crush it, you can't get a smaller box for it. It'll always take up space in the box, so you'll be charged by volume rather than the weight. Also kids' toys, like I mentioned, they're usually light, but they're very volumetric. So certain items you just can't avoid being charged by volume, so you have to bear that in mind. But generally with other items you can avoid it by making sure that whatever weight you put in that box or suitcase exceeds its volumetric weight. So I hope that this video has been useful. If you do have any questions, please contact me on the number that I've put on display. I'll be more than happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.